Hello everyone and welcome to my preview for the next video on the channel. This goes out to all Gondolin members on YouTube, and for Patreon it's everyone from the Gondor up to the Valinor tier. Today I'm going to be covering where I am at the video, the process behind making this video, and hopefully that part you'll understand why it's taking such a long time to get out. A little bit of the history of the topic, why I'm covering it, what I'm going to be covering, and I'll also end with a preview of the actual video. So hopefully you'll find this interesting, and I hope you enjoy this preview. So the video itself is Blind Guardian's Nightfall in Middle Earth, and it's a lyrical analysis or explanation of just what's being covered in this album. So for readers of the Silmarillion, it's not going to be that complex. It's pretty easy to follow that way. There's a few songs that are maybe a bit divisive in terms of what they mean, but generally it's accepted what each song is referring to. And I'll be going through the lyrics of each song, explaining what that refers to in the Silmarillion, and giving references so people could go to those chapters. And it's kind of more interactive kind of video. And it's something different than what I've done before, but I'll get into all that. So the way I've been making this, I should say first, actually, at the moment, I have created the lyrics on screen for all the songs. Okay, that took an awful long time to do. I'm not covering every single lyric because I don't feel I had to do that, but it's probably most of them. And I wanted that to look good on the screen. So to just explain that part briefly, originally I was going to just have me reading the lyrics. That's what it started. That's what it started off as, probably like this in front of the camera. I moved on to, well, no, I'll have the lyrics on the screen. And I was going to still be speaking the lyrics. Then it moved on to, why don't I use the actual tracks to show the lyrics on the screen? So I had to do a bit of an investigation about whether I was allowed to do that, if the video would get taken down and all that stuff. And it turns out I can use the music freely, but I can't monetize the video. I won't earn anything from this video, which I've decided is fine because it makes the video better to use the music and it's not just me reading it for 2 hours, So it's a shame that it can't be monetized or anything, because I think there's a chance it might do well, or it might not interest anyone, but there's just a feeling that this could be popular to a wider audience, and I won't be able to monetize or anything, but that's okay. So I've decided to use the lyrics on the screen. Then it was about how to show them. So originally I had the album artwork, which you can see up in the corner. I was going to have the album artwork in the background, made it look quite nice, and just have blocks of the text for each lyric coming up. And I started doing that, and I got quite far into doing that, and then decided, no, that's terrible. It was just really boring. Every song had the same background, and it was always cutting back to this background. So I then said, let's make the lyrics look a bit better. So I started animating them a bit more. So they you'll see it in the preview, they'll flash up on the screen, they'll scroll and all of that. Different colours for each song. And I then got through almost all the album doing that, and then realised I didn't really like it. I didn't like the text I'd used. Some of the songs, it was like huge blocks that were appearing on the screen, and I thought that's not very good to look at. And honestly, that was like a full weekend I'd spent doing that, and then I just completely went back on it. And I said, I don't like how that looks. So that was hours and hours. I don't want to say wasted, because I had to do it to realise how I really wanted to do it. and deleted all that, went back to the drawing board and said, let's basically theme each song. So pick a background image related to the song, then have the text on screen where, you'll notice in the complete video that if it's a song really related to Melkor, it's like bold, dark, red text, and other songs it's more colourful, like white and bright if it's like the Valar and all this kind of stuff. I wanted to do it like that. I've not went overboard with that. I'm hoping it's still readable, but I wanted to do it a little bit more interactive and entertaining. So I went back to the drawing board and did that, and that took an awful long time because I was really putting an effort into the lyrics and having the background image for each section. So each part of the song that uses the lyrics will have the same background image come up, with a nice way of viewing the lyrics. So I've done all that. So even though this video is an hour and 55 minutes long or something, all those parts are complete. But then, surprisingly time consuming, I've went back to all those parts in between where it's just me narrating. And originally I was going to do it like this again with the camera, but I thought, no, might as well go all the way and do it like one of my normal videos, which is having artists' artwork on the screen the way I usually do it, having the information boxes at the bottom and all that stuff. But the video is just so huge that it's clearly the biggest one I've ever made. But again, I want to make it good, and it's just taking time to do it. But I think it'll be worth it. So at this stage, I've, as I said, went through all the lyrics, all that stuff's done. That's an awful lot of the video. But for fully complete songs, as in all the lyric parts and my narration parts with backgrounds and all that stuff, I've only fully completed 3 tracks out of the 22. But that sounds terrible, like I've not done anything. But again, you'll be surprised how much of the rest of the video is done because of those lyric sections. But it is taking an awful long time. But that's all to make the video as good as it can be. So that's just a little bit of the process that I went in. I had to extract all the lyrics from all the songs. I then even used my editing software to try and remove vocals so that I could use each track as a background over my narrated section. So the track will be playing in the background while I'm speaking, but there'll be no vocals because that would interfere with me speaking. But that was a long process as well. And extracting each lyrical part, getting that in place, getting my narration done, sending that off to be engineered. There was a few little bits that were problematic there, had to get fixed. And yeah, now it's just filling in the gaps all the way through the video, finding the process that always takes the longest, finding the artwork. If only I was one of those awful AI channels that just generates artwork, it'd be a lot easier. But trying to find it, there was such a lack of Ungoliant images for a track called Into the Storm, which I was really surprised about. Who doesn't want to draw or paint Ungoliant? But that's the stage I'm at. And as I'm going through, I'm picking out little bits that maybe a little bit of information at the bottom of the screen, doing the references and referencing the artist as well. And it's just taking time, but I'll be getting through it. I'm trying to take it one track at a time now. Some of the tracks are very short. So when I say 3 out of 22, you have to remember that if you're unfamiliar with this album, I should say, there's a few tracks there that are like interludes, and I maybe talk for 2 paragraphs after them, and they'll be done pretty quickly. Other tracks I've talked for quite a long time about them. I think I talk about Nightfall for a surprising length of time, the 4th track, and trying my best, doing a lot of work on it. It's going to still be a while, but I'm hoping everyone's patient, and If this is something that really doesn't interest you, I can only apologise that it's taken a lot of my time to do. I'll be back to kind of regular videos after this, but this is something I really wanted to do, as I'll get into in a little bit. So that's the status and a bit behind the process for making it. So the history of this topic, this is something I haven't written about anywhere before. Usually I say here that I wrote about it on Quora, I wrote about it on Medium or some other website, or I've made it as a video before. Never, not at all. So I had to write all this out from scratch. But for a little bit of the history of the topic, it's more related to the music, I guess, and it's not something Tolkien related. It's more about the music. So as I say in the intro to the main video, I started listening to this band about a year or two, so something like that, after I started reading Tolkien, and I didn't realize there was any connection between them at all. That was just around the time where I started getting into this style of music. And Nightfall, Middle-earth, I'd obviously heard of Middle-earth then, because I'd read Tolkien, but I'd only read the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings, and I had no idea what they were really talking about. And I specifically remember guessing some of the lyrics. I wasn't even sitting with the lyrical booklet or anything like that, and guessing what they were kind of singing about. And I didn't read the Silmarillion for a few years after I read The Lord of the Rings. And I remember returning to this and it making a bit more sense. And then still a few tracks that were, I don't really know what that's about. I'm not associating it with something in particular from the Silmarillion. And then that took a little bit of time after that. And then it just became this really special album because there's not anything else really like it. There's other bands that do Tolkien songs, but this was just, the Silmarillion out in an album. And, it doesn't cover everything, but most of what you can think of is in there somewhere. You do have songs about Gondolin, you have songs about the Silmarils, you have songs about Húrin and this kind of thing. It's just great when you're really into kind of a style of music or something, and they're singing about a topic that you're really interested in. It's a bit like some other bands I like have songs about Dune or something like that, and it's just cool hearing that in musical form because I really like artwork and everything to do with topics I like, but music is another art form, and I think it's even if it was music I didn't like, I would check it out if it was about a subject I like because I appreciate that. And that's one thing I'm hoping here. So even if you're not into this style of music, it's not like exceedingly heavy or anything like that. It's not incomprehensible. But if you're not really into this style of music, you might find it too loud, fast-paced, or aggressive, or something like that. Reading the lyrics about it might interest you. Just having a song about crossing the Helcaraxi, and that's just cool to me. And it's even better for me because I really love this style of music. So that's a long association with this album and Tolkien. And it was very easy for me to convince myself to do a video about this. And yeah, that's just a little brief history of my relationship to this album. It's a 20-year relationship, and I thought it was a good time to actually talk about it. And that brings me to why this topic. So I've covered a little bit there about why I'm really interested in this style of music, the lyrics that are associated with Tolkien. I obviously love Tolkien. But why did I want to make a video about it? This is something that even when I was on the Red Book, I'd thought about, and I really debated how I would do it. Well, I can't use the music, obviously. That's what I would tell myself, not realizing that I could have used the music. People won't like that. It's another one of these things where I was thinking too much about people potentially not being interested instead of doing it because I'm interested in it. So very early into this new channel, I had this down as an idea, and it's about time to cover it. But also thankfully, no one else really has, or I should say, 100% no one has covered it like I'm covering it. Like, no, they haven't at all. There's a few videos on YouTube talking about this album. In each track, they tend to be other languages, but it's like the album artwork will be there, and then they'll just talk over it, and then they'll go to the next song with a little preview of each song, and they'll talk about it for a few minutes. No one's done it like this. Now, there are some websites where they've written down their analysis. Sometimes they've started it and given up. Unless I've really not been able to find it, there's not a video like this on YouTube, which really interests me, because this is full on. I'm going through each track. I'm using loads of artwork. It's like a big produced video. It's not just me sitting in front of the camera. It's like one of my normal videos, but with all these huge music sections all the way through it, which is what's made it the biggest video I've ever made. And it's nearly 2 hours long. So all of that interested me. It's a bit daunting, but as you know, from this new channel, I really wanted to make definitive, I keep saying this, definitive versions of videos related to certain topics. So far I've only made 2. I've made the Elros. I made the Gil-galad video, and I've made the Aragorn Sauron video. If you asked me, would there be more you could add to those videos? I'd say, yeah, there's always something you can add. But would it make the video better? I'd probably say no. I really think I put a lot of effort into those videos to make definitive versions. If someone on Reddit or somewhere else said, why is Sauron afraid of Aragorn? He's just a man. I'm confident that that video I made would be good enough to just send that person. You obviously could write it out and tell them, but I'm happy enough with that video that I think that would answer the question like definitively. And I've had quite a few comments, people saying just that it's a topic they've thought about. It's a really interesting topic, and I've covered it exhaustively, like in a good way though. Just really delved into the topic. Same with the Gil-galad one. There's other channels have covered that too, and they're twice as long. But I think I picked out good parts to talk about. I got talking about the canon and all that. I'm happy with that video. So when I started this one about Guardian and Nightfall Middle-earth, I wanted it to be definitive, and it's not been done like this. And I think this is why I'd probably be disappointed if it didn't get any views and no one liked it. I'm hoping that when it is on YouTube, it's the best video on YouTube about Blind Guardian's album. And someone else might come along and make a better one in the future. But at the moment, when this is out, I think it'll be the best one. And people who like the album will hopefully enjoy it. People like Tolkien will enjoy it, I hope. And over my time on YouTube, I have seen comments on other people's videos, which I always laugh at, because just because this album is related to Tolkien doesn't mean that everyone is going to like the album. That's not how it works. So I did see a couple of other channels where they were getting pushed to listen to this album, and they hated it. They just didn't like it at all. Because if you've never been into this style and that, and you're getting thrown straight into it, it doesn't matter if the lyrics are about something you like. It's just not your thing. You're just not going to enjoy it. Others have said, oh yeah, that'd be cool to cover, and they're never going to cover it. They're just saying that. Arrogantly, I'll say, out of all the Tolkien channels I know, I don't think anyone else is better suited to covering this topic, because I genuinely love this album and this band and Tolkien. And yeah, there may be other channels that like this too, but they've never made it clear. But I'd be confident putting myself up there saying it'll be hard to find someone who's into Tolkien as much who likes this album as much who makes videos on YouTube about Tolkien. You know what I mean? It's like it's a match made in heaven, obviously. So that's why I say at the end of the intro, I hope I can do it justice. And if it was the definitive version of a Blind Guardian video about Nightfall Middle Earth, that'd be brilliant, because it'd be really cool if there was other sites where people were wanting to know what's the song on this album about, linking to this video. That's always what I hope for. It doesn't really happen very often, but it'd be really cool if it happened for this album. So that's why I'm covering this topic. What exactly is covered? Well, as I said, it's if I showed you the lyrics, you're all Tolkien fans, you've all read the Silmarillion. If I showed you the lyrics to Nightfall, not the album, I mean the track Nightfall, I think you should do a pretty good job of working out what they're talking about. And as I said, that's the case for most of the songs. But so I'm not doing anything exceedingly special here where I have special insight into the deeper meaning. It's something that Tolkien fans who've read Silmarillion should be able to work out, with a few little parts that are, as said earlier, a bit divisive. You know, people think it means this and it might mean that. But I still find it interesting. And what I do is, after the introduction, I basically break up each and every song. I go through the lyrics I think are particularly interesting or relevant, and they'll be played with the lyrics on the screen. Then I basically discuss it. It will be the story, the character it's referring to, leading from one point to another, and it's like a kind of storybook as I'm going through it. Because the whole album's not in order. Most of it is, but there's a track, Mirror Mirror, where it talks about Gondolin and that it's going to fall in the end. But later we have a track about Maglin, which obviously refers to the fall of Gondolin as well. But then we have a track near the very end where Gondolin hasn't fallen, but Morgoth's trying to get information about it from Húrin. So it jumps about a little bit like that. There's also the fact that Fingolfin gets across the ice and everything, but then later there's a track about the crossing of Helcaraxi. So I go through it that kind of way, and that means it's very nice that I could set up the topics for the video where it's just each track. So after the introduction, it'll be, this is track 1, this is track 2, this is track 3, self-contained discussion for the whole track, then it moves on to the next one. And I didn't finish with a big summary at the end or anything, because I think I'd just be repeating myself. I basically end it the way the album ends, and that's it. I'm not covering anything special. It's the album track by track. There are some bonus tracks that aren't on the original album, and I do know where these would pretty much fit in. There's a couple of reasons why I've not covered them. One is that it's not on the original album. I'm really wanting to cover the album that I grew up listening to. And the fact that with a couple of the bonus tracks, they were recorded years later, 2015 or 14 or so, and this was 1998. It's a different sound. And that kind of bothers me a little bit, where they feel a little bit different. And I'd also have to either put them in at certain places where I really believe they would have went in the original album. So there's one track in particular where I know, based on the subject, that it would have went in before, like, the Curse of Fëanor song. But then again, I'd be kind of changing the album by putting in the bonus tracks. It was either that or put them all at the end and do it that way. But then I felt after I'd written like my end part of the end track, it's almost anticlimactic to go into some, oh, here's some bonus tracks, that kind of way. And the video was already long enough. So, and I still want to cover them though, because, you know, this is just a little side bit here. There's one of the bonus tracks which is absolutely amazing, and it's you know only came out a few years ago as a bonus track, and it really should have been on the album. And it quickly became one of my, not just one of my favorite songs that should have been on this album, but one of my favorite songs from the band. And I'd love to cover it. It's such a good song, and I'm disappointed that I've not put it into the analysis for that reason, because it's so good, and it's an absolute disgrace that it wasn't on the original album. It wasn't finished and put on there. But I still, like I say, I still want to cover them. So I think in the future, I'm not saying I'll do it directly after this because I've been doing this long enough. But in the future, I think I will do those bonus tracks as a members only video, like a little appendix video to this, to the main one. And it'll just be for you guys, where I get to cover those 3 songs. And you know, so we'll get some hooring, we'll get some touring, and we'll get the burning of the ships. That's what the 3 songs are really about. And that will happen. That's what I've decided I'm going to do. So I've left it off this video for those kind of reasons that might seem a bit strange, but they kind of made sense to me. And it will just be the original album with all its track listing properly laid out the way the band wanted and all that. That's why I wanted to do it. And that's what I'm going to be covering. So just a quick summary before I give you the video. I'm currently going through my narrated sections for each track. So there's quite a bit to do, but I have covered all the lyrical stuff. That's all been edited. All the narration and all the music's all been edited. It's just these narrated parts, my actual analysis parts, that I'm going through now. So I can't give you a date. I really wanted it to be in March. I'd be very surprised if I managed to do this by the end of March. I don't think that's possible. So I hope you'll keep being patient, and I promise that after this one, the next video is not going to be 2 hours long. It's going to be a much shorter one. I'd like to edit a shorter one and see if I can actually still do it. So I'll pick a topic to do that. But that's just that's just how it is now on this new channel. It's certain videos take a long time to do, but they're hopefully worth it. There's a lot of effort that goes into them. And for the video preview, because you've been waiting for ages, I wanted to make it a bit of a lengthy one this time. It's not 2 or 3 minutes long. It's almost 15 minutes. So I've decided to give you the introduction to the video and the first 2 tracks fully done. So the intro track is just an intro track. It's just voices. There's no music or anything. I'll give you that. And the first main track, track 2, Into the Storm, that's fully done as well. So that's all in the preview. And that's just coming up after this. So again, thanks for your patience for me doing this video. As I've said, it's the biggest video I've made ever. It's taken a long time, but once it's done, I'm really trying to make it the definitive version of this video. I'll never need to do it again, and hopefully no one will ever make a better one. That's why it takes so long. That's why there's so much effort going into it. That's why I've made certain decisions that have really extended the time it takes to make, but will really improve the way the video looks. If I was just sitting here like this with the camera, reading out lyrics and talking about it, I'd be bored, So it's, I don't even know what other people would be like, but I'd be bored watching it back. So that's why it's taking so long. Hopefully it's worth it. And thanks if you've watched this preview, and I hope you enjoy the actual video preview. And the video will be ready when it's ready, but hopefully it's all worth it. So thanks very much. Welcome to my personal interpretation and explanation of the lyrics found on an album I've enjoyed for 2 decades, Nightfall in Middle-earth, by the band Blind Guardian. I discovered Blind Guardian only a year or 2 after I first read Tolkien. I didn't really connect them at all at that point. And even though I enjoyed this album for a time without understanding what the lyrics were referring to, I would grow to appreciate it even more after reading the Silmarillion. The fact it is so heavily influenced by Tolkien has made it even more special to me. A concept album with each track directly referencing the events, stories, and characters of that book. I feel that as someone who has enjoyed Tolkien and this music for as long as I have, that I am hopefully in a good position to share what these lyrics are referencing. My hope is that this will not only appeal to those who listen to Blind Guardian and enjoy Tolkien, but also those who have never read Tolkien but love this album, and those who have read Tolkien but don't enjoy this style of music. You may still appreciate the creation of art influenced by his works. Full tracks will not be played here with the exception of the shorter interludes. This means that not every single lyric will be spoken about, nor will I repeat all choruses or repeated lyrics, guitar solos, or long instrumental sections. And even though the tracks can still be heard as I go through the album, I highly recommend listening to the full album uninterrupted to experience it the right way. To hopefully improve the quality of the video, I wanted to use the real tracks instead of just reading the lyrics, which I was fortunately allowed to do through the record label's stance on their music being used on YouTube. However, no ads can be placed, and the video is not monetized for legal reasons. I consider this to be a bit of a passion project, and it took quite a while to create, and I hope that if you enjoy it you may consider subscribing and checking out my other videos, and maybe even consider becoming a supporter of the channel. And just before I begin, for those unfamiliar with the name, Blind Guardian come from Germany and have been around since the mid-80s. They are massively influential in the metal subgenre we call power metal. This album was released in 1998, and as I have said, it is a concept album based on the Silmarillion, full of layered vocals, folk instruments, interludes, songs both light and heavy. It is critically acclaimed, and generally viewed as a masterpiece of its genre, and possibly the band's best or at least most popular album. But it is also one of the most popular works out there when it comes to music influenced by Tolkien. I hope I can do it justice here by sharing how I associate the lyrics with Tolkien's Silmarillion tale. The War of Wrath refers to the great war that would result in the downfall of the Dark Lord Morgoth and the end of the First Age of Middle-earth. Morgoth's victory seemed almost inevitable after the events of the Battle of Unnumbered Tears, near Naith Arnoediad. The Union of Mithros, which saw many of his greatest enemies remaining in Beleriand come together to challenge his tyranny, was short-lived. The havens of the Falas fell, Nargothrond was destroyed, and the hidden city of Gondolin was discovered and assaulted by a devastating force. Centuries of conflict in Middle-earth had not defeated Morgoth. Elendil, who escaped the fall of Gondolin as a child, was a mortal who managed to sail to Valinor to plead on behalf of both elves, especially the Noldor, and men, who had awoken in a world already besieged by a tyrant and had chosen to fight him, with Elendil being a descendant of both kindreds. His prayer was answered, and the great battle began when the host of the Valar made its way east from the Blessed Realm to assault the Black Foe Morgoth and his vast armies in a world-changing conflict. The last hope for the hopeless exiled in Middle-earth. We hear a conversation between Morgoth and his greatest servant Sauron, a conversation that was created for this album, so it doesn't appear in any of Tolkien's texts.
The field is lost. Everything is lost. The Black One has fallen from the sky, the towers in ruins lie. The enemy is within, everywhere, and with him the light. Soon they will be here. Go now, my lord, while there is time. There are places below.
The host of the Valar's victory is imminent, the light of the west. They have swept away fields of orcs, and Erendil with a shining Silmaril on his brow has slain the great winged dragon and Calagon the Black, called here the Black One by Sauron. His fall has left the peaks of Thangorodrim, containing the citadel of Angband beneath, in ruins, and the host is now within Morgoth's previously unassailable walls. The final chapter of Quenta Silmarillion tells us of the defeat of Morgoth. Then the sun rose, and the host of the Valar prevailed, and the might of the Valar descended into the deeps of the earth. Sauron mentions places below, described in the same chapter of the Silmarillion as the deepest of Morgoth's mines.
And you know them too. I release thee. Go. My servant you'll be for all time.
While we don't really know where Sauron was at the time of this great war, here Morgoth gives permission for Sauron to escape, a reminder that in later years it will be Sauron who will return to trouble the world again, the servant and emissary of Morgoth, even after his lord is cast out of the world.
I had a part in everything. Twice I destroyed the light and twice I failed. I left ruin behind me when I returned, but I also carried ruin with me. She, the mistress of her own lust.
Morgoth reflects on his past deeds before his defeat. He destroyed the two lamps that shone across the world and ushered in the spring of Arda, their destruction ending it and altering the symmetry of Arda. This led to the making of the two trees of Valinor after the Valar escaped Middle-earth and made their home in the west. Morgoth destroyed the light once again by killing the trees. This did not result in the defeat of light itself or his enemies, as later came the sun and moon, which Morgoth never conquered, giving rise to new foes in the form of men and hope itself. And the one he speaks of as the ruin he carried with him, the mistress of her own lust, is the being Ungoliant, the Gloomweaver, a foul creature in spider shape who carried Melkor to Valinor in a cloud of unlight to destroy the two trees and take what he desired, the Silmarils, beginning a brutal war in Middle-earth. Tolkien directly calls her a mistress of her own lust, as she had previously served Melkor as his subject, but disowned him to take all things to herself, to feed her emptiness. She drank from the spilled sap of the trees, and her poison withered them, root, branch and leaf. Together, Melkor and Ungoliant fled to Middle-earth after the darkening of Valinor, and Melkor's murder of the High King Finwë, before he seized the precious Silmarils as his own. Where War of Wrath places us at the end of Morgoth's reign of terror in Middle-earth, Into the Storm throws us directly into the strife surrounding Melkor, the Silmarils, and their maker Fëanor. Melkor has returned to Middle-earth with Ungoliant, and a war that will engulf Beleriand is on the horizon. When Melkor was released from Mandos after the Battle of the Powers when elves first awoke and was free to dwell in Valinor, he sought to cause strife between the Valar and the elves. But when his lust for the Silmarils could not be hidden from their maker, Fëanor, Melkor departed in shame and anger. He fled as the High King Finwë sent messengers to Manwë, the Elder King. As the Valar pursued him in old strongholds to the north and Middle-earth, Melkor walked unclad to the south of Aman and Avathar. When the time was right for his revenge on the Valar and elves for his previous imprisonment and humiliation, he sought for Ungoliant. She feared the Valar and the light of Valinor itself, torn between fear and her insatiable lust. Melkor convinced her to aid him. "Do as I bid, and if thou hunger still when all is done, then I will give thee whatsoever thy lust may demand, yea, with both hands." The great thief had lured the lesser. These opening lyrics are spoken by Ungoliant, one who greatly desires the Silmarils, but they are also fitting for Melkor, one we can compare to Ungoliant in his lust and greed, one who also believes he deserves this precious treasure. Both want the Silmarils, both must have them, and both feel they deserve them. Melkor has taken the Silmarils and fled to Middle-earth. He knows he will be pursued by everyone for the great crimes he has committed, betraying the trust of the Valar following his imprisonment in Mandos, his attempt at turning allies in Valinor against each other, the destruction of the two trees, the murder of the High King Finwë that spilled the first blood in Aman, and the theft of the precious Silmarils. Again he speaks of them belonging to him, and revels in the darkness of Valinor following the death of Light. He has been carried away by the unlight of Ungoliant, as he believes, as we heard in the War of Wrath intro, that he has destroyed the light forever. Some may claim these words are spoken by Balrogs after Melkor is attacked by Ungoliant. Perhaps they see him as their god, their one, and they follow him even into the storm. I do not read it this way and read the chorus being spoken by everyone, as everyone will be drawn into this conflict. All follow the will of the one being Eru, the Allfather, the Iluvatar. As these events are unfolding, all are still subject to his will. His plan, which has adapted to discord and is not fully understood by anyone. The world has changed with the events that have taken place, and as Middle-earth is about to be plunged into an age-long war, those who serve Eru are trusting in his will, and those who fight against him are powerless to overcome it, and their fight against it still aids in its fulfillment. Blackheart is the name Ungoliant gives Melkor as she claims she has done his bidding but still hungers. Melkor declares that she cannot have the world for her belly, as he never vowed to give her that, and he is its lord. But she desires the treasure from Formenos, and one by one Melkor begrudgingly allows her to devour precious gems he also took, alongside the Silmarils. Still, she is hungry, and when Melkor declares that the last 3 precious gems he holds, the Silmarils themselves, are his forever, Ungoliant, who had swollen to a tremendous power after devouring the light in Valinor, will seize him by force. The lyrics, once again, seem to often be attributed to Melkor demanding to be released, while Ungoliant demands the Silmarils. The cries of pain and needing the Silmarils can really be attributed to both figures, another example of just how similar these beings are. I typically read this entire section as being spoken by Ungoliant. She yearns to eat and wants to be released from the pain of her everlasting hunger by being given the greatest gems Melkor still holds. She needs them and feels she may be released from the black void of lust causing her hunger. She believes the Silmarils will fill that void, but nothing ever will. Ungoliant, before she assaults Melkor, reminds him of what he promised, to give her what she desired willingly if the light of Valinor was not enough. She wants her payment in full, and their partnership ends when Melkor utterly refuses her, and she strikes.